Hello, 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 hello. We are live on the air. These are the three witches. We are back again. I know you've been missing us, and you say you're missing us, so we are back again. And without further introduction, I'm Prince Ojong.
Larry Young, 40 years journalist from Cameroon and the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, these are going to be consequential times for Cameroon. In October this year, the 92-year-old dictator who's been in power for 42 years wants to run for office again. Prince, isn't that a scandal?
It's not a scandal, but it's a disgrace, the biggest disgrace you can think of. But it's up to the Cameroonian people who are sleeping while two prostitutes are running their country. So that's the message for
Yes.
today.
Hey, Prince, you are alluding to the real oil housewives of Cameroon,
Yes.
Chantal Biya and Nathalie Mudiki.
So who is Nathalie Mudiki? I know a lot of Cameroonians don't really know her.
Okay.
They may see the oil coming from Victoria Limber, SNL, but they may not have heard the name Adolphe Mudiki.
Okay.
So before you even go to Nathalie, who start with Adolphe, the husband.
Adolphe Mudiki is the director of SNH, the National Oils Hydrocarbons Company.
Société Nationale.
The hydrocarbon.
Mm-hmm.
This is the behemoth in Cameroon, the money-making behemoth, which Paul Biya uses to pay for all the courts in which he is. He is in the Premier Courier court with Mobutu. You remember when Jean-Irene Biya died, the only president who came for the funeral was Mobutu. Mm-hmm. He had also given his own wife. Now, this is what it is. We are in a cultist society. And when Western powers are talking about, oh, the oil curse, no, they are the ones who have organized this exploitative system to perpetuate it. And it's not just happening in Cameroon, it's happening in Ivory Coast, where Alassane Ouattara, who is another French puppet, has suspended Laurent Gbagbo, suspended Tidjane Thiam, suspended Guillaume Soro from the election. And Prince, this is the news. The French are organizing a preemptive palace coup in Cameroon.
So before we go there, just hold on to that. Before we go there, let's continue with Mudiki. How did Mudiki get to SNL?
Okay, and SNL.
Biya chose him, right?
They are classmates.
Okay.
They are all in their. Mudiki is in his 80s. He's in very, very bad health. He is basically lying in a hospital on life support in Paris. And his wife, Nathalie Mudiki, one of these women, Prince, you know how we usually say, well, they married them for their beauty, not for their brains. She is a glamorous, beautiful woman. She happens to be Chantal Biya's friend. So they have created a new company, Tradex, where they are hoarding the oil that comes from the pipelines. They have created an organization in Kribi called Star, and they've given it to Chantal Biya's son, Frank S., who Chantal Biya is hoping could become the president of Cameroon, because you know the battle between Chantal and Frank.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole, it's just a family. I call it the Biya crime family. Mm-hmm. Mvondo Assam, Frank Biya, they are in oil, they are in gold.
Motaze.
Yeah, the exploitation is breathtaking. And at that time, Cameroonian young men are dying in the Sahara, they are dying in the island of Lampedusa, they are dying in the Darien Pass to come seek greener pastures. During that time, Chantal Biya, her sons, and the family of Biya are exploiting the rich resources of Cameroon for their personal gain. And guess what? France is colluding. Switzerland is colluding because all this oil is hoarded in Swiss bank accounts.
Wow.
So that is the tragedy. Now, Prince, I am one, as Steve Jobs says, only those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world who really do. I believe we're going to change this.
So how are you going to change Cameroon now that everybody in Cameroon is sleeping?
No, I don't think. You have to be fair to the Cameroonians.
Okay, so tell me.
The young Cameroonian generation, the messianic generation, are determined to wrestle the power away from the dictators. That is why they are supporting Maurice Kamto. And Prince, I want to be very objective. He taught me at ERIC. He's a very brilliant attorney. He is the one who went to the International Court of Justice to fight for Bakassi for Cameroon. And he reclaimed Bakassi for Cameroon with his knowledge. But the French, through General Lamberton, had said that le Bamileke, c'est la chaussure gênante dans la pierre de la colonisation française au Cameroon. Let me translate that. That the Bamileke is the prickly pebble in the shoe of French colonialism in Cameroon and in the neo-colonialism too, because the Bamilekes are very enterprising, they are very resourceful, they have the numbers, and if there were a free and fair election in Cameroon, Maurice Kamto will win hands down, as he had won before. So this is where we are. When you see people like Chiruma, who is a political prostitute from the north, resigning and is being received immediately by the French ambassador, we have to smell a rat.
Why is the ambassador receiving him?
Well, this is the dynamic of the French in Cameroon. Power is on the north-south axis. After Mitterrand had his snafu with Ahidjo, because, by the way, Prince, I hope you remember why.
Of course.
Ahidjo left power.
Yes.
Ahidjo left power because he dared Francois Mitterrand in 1972, who was an attorney for the Socialist Party, who came to Douala and was trying to get to Yaoundé to advocate for Ernest Wanzie, who was condemned to death. And Ahidjo declared him persona non grata, asked him to return into the plane, and even use the bathroom only in the plane, and told him, quand tu deviendras président, il faut m'interdire l'entrée en France. And as God does his things, after 3 elections, remember Mitterrand stood elections against de Gaulle, against Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, against Georges Pompidou, and on the 3rd try he won. Mm-hmm. And he told Ahidjo, I am now president, you're getting out. But Ahidjo thought he could play tricks and get the docile Paul Biya to be the president. He didn't know that there was a lion inside this guy, the Esingan, transformed him into some animal with, as my director, Famen Dungu, had told us that if it was not black magic, Biya will not be in power anymore. So our country has been ruled by a cult.
So do you think that it's black magic or the military? Because when I look at it, without the military, there will be no Biya regime.
Okay. There are all those myths. The military has been handed over as a contract to the Israelis. The Israelis have a track record of sustaining dictatorships all over Africa. Prince, you know, by the way, that it's the Israeli Colonel Barlev with the British who put Idi Amin in power in 1972.
Yes.
So that is their special contract to sustain dictators, exploit resources, and try to curry favor. Now, you know what's happening in the United States here now. General Wesley Clark had declared a long time ago that when he got to the Pentagon, they told him that we're going to wage 7 wars. We're going to attack Iraq. We're going to attack Syria. We're going to attack. So, but why are you guys going to do that? So we have to flatten the whole of Middle East so that Israel, our agent there, which is fighting the wars that we don't have to fight. Prince, when I came to the United States for the first time in 1983, we went to the Smithsonian. On that day, 219 Marines were killed in Beirut.
I remember that incident. I was in Washington then.
Okay, so this is, we're digressing, but let's go back to the 2 beautiful women. I wish we had her pictures here.
No, all of them. No, most people have seen Chantal with the big hair, pompadour everywhere. So you don't need to worry about the pictures. Even Nathalie Mudiki, she has been in the news recently in Cameroon, so people know her face. She's a beautiful métis, but it looks like she doesn't have much else but her female wiles to play the game.
Yeah, but by now, what has really happened in the Biya camp is that they are eating each other. There is Mendoza's daughter called Dr. Marlene Mvutu, who they say she is Mendoza's. She says she's Mendoza's.
She's a doctor in what?
Well, I'm not here
Because
to,
we're not listening to her. No, no, tell the public. What's your doctor in?
Prince. My job here.
La façon qu'elle s'exprime en français, je ne sens même pas qu'elle est bien instruite.
Well, I'm not going to go there. I want to speak.
Je te dis la vérité.
I want to speak in English, and I'm going to say
Okay.
that Marlene's information, Marlene's critical insights inside the Biya regime is what is dispositive for Cameroonians to know, because she is revealing some really interesting details about the way the Palais de Tudi functions. And for me, that is what I am concerned about, and the future of our country. Without going into, I mean, we've had all kinds of very educated people. John Gute is there. He has a PhD from London. What's he doing for us?
A PhD in bullshit.
Yeah. So this is the point. We are watching this regime now. We are watching the arrival of the director of the gendarmerie in France, who came to Cameroon in his uniform, a general. Remember, the French ambassador to Cameroon is a general from the Indochina experience. Now, what is happening is that people like Akere Muna and Dion Gute are feeding into the trough by telling the government of France that, oh, if you give me an appointment, if you make me vice president, or you bring us, I will bring the Anglophones in. It is false. The Southern Cameroonian issue has been resolved by our martyrs. They have paid for the independence of our territory with their blood. There's no coming back. But the French, they learn very hard.
But it looks like a lot of our folks are supporting this Akere Muna guy.
Yeah, Akere Muna is a very...
I see some people on social media, a lot of them really support. I don't want to call names.
Yeah. Okay, Remingono has been making a lot of publicity for Akere Muna. Now, watch. In 40 years of journalism, our job in the media has always been to frame the opinion. So when something is going to happen, you see the media start agitating. Here, Remingono talk, oui, le maître Akere Muna, c'est lui qui a été sur le problème de Glencore. Il a fait quoi sur le problème de Glencore? He went and he was praising Roger Moutaze, because the dirty little secret is that Akere Muna is Paul Biya's private attorney. That is what it is. And
wow.
Yeah, he's Paul Biya's private attorney. Paul Biya gives instructions that all Akere's bills should be paid as a matter of priority. So when I hear that Akere has been convened in 2017 to come to the SED and come and explain himself on allegations of hostility towards the homeland, advocating terrorism, secession, insurrection, and compromising the security of the state, I said, this is staged. If the government of Cameroon wanted to arrest Akere Muna, they will not invite him in a public event where all the attorneys know they come. So this is, they are promoting Akere Muna. But let me warn you, Akere Tabeng Muna, your father himself discovered that the Francophones had deceived him. And in 1995, he was among the 9-man delegation who came to New York to come and table a petition to the United Nations that the Union had failed.
Too little, too late.
Ben, may his soul rest in peace. Niben Muna, that's how we call him, Niben. I was in the SDF National Executive with him. At the end, he realized that we have no future with the French. And he said we should fight. Those are the last words.
Yeah, fight now. I remember the guy.
Yes, that is the last words we remember about the Munas. So every other Muna has done his mea culpa, but Akere seems to be the foolhardy one who thinks that there's no future between Southern Cameroon and French Cameroon. That one is very clear. The people have shown it. In 9 years, they have not defeated us.
So this election coming in October 2025, how do you see things play out?
Okay. Now, let me preface my comment with the caveat that I know nothing. But in 40 years, this is what I am seeing. When you look at the situation in Ivory Coast, which occurred in 2011, when Sarkozy wanted to remove a nationalist leader, Laurent Gbagbo, who was very popular, and he said, "Je vais le vitrifier. I'm going to vaporize him," and mounted a rebellion in Ivory Coast. It was sustained by Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso, and they cut the country into two between the north and the south. Prince, that looks like a scenario that the French are afraid can replay in Cameroon. That is why Issa Chiruma should be watched very carefully. Immediately, he went to the Prime Minister's office and claimed that he was tabling his resignation. He was invited by the French ambassador. And interestingly, the French ambassador published the pictures of his meeting with Issa Chiruma. I have not seen the French ambassador publish pictures of his meeting with Maurice Kamto. So you start smelling a rat. So we are looking at the situation.
So they know that the guy is a prostitute. That
and that
Issa Chiruma is a prostitute.
Yeah, those are the people they use. People who have a lot of overweening ambition, personal ambition. They are craving for wealth. They are craving for popularity. Those are the people who are used. And that is exactly what the French have always done. They call them les interlocuteurs valables.
Then these two housewives of Cameroon Oil, Chantal Biya and Natalie Mudiki.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, how were they able to capture the state apparatus?
They used their bottom power, to say it mildly.
No, say the truth.
Okay.
How did they do it?
Basically, if you see the way Paul Biya married Chantal, Paul Biya seized Chantal from Christian Mataga. Christian Mataga, who people claim is actually Biya's son. So this is the whole web of sexual homosexuality in the whole family. So
incest.
I mean, it's really terrible, with incest, with Philemon Yang having slept with his own daughter in Paris, and cause, I mean, the scandals in Cameroon regarding sex are breathtaking now. So Chantal is actually the crown jewel of the Biya regime. She is our own Marie Antoinette. And Paul Biya is King Louis XVI. That's how it's going to end. Because this woman, whatever she wants, she uses,
Some people don't know European history. It's really like the French Revolution. I know you are a good guy of French history and the French Revolution. Can you shed light a little bit so that they can understand that
Marie Antoinette
metaphor?
Before the French Revolution of 1779. I hope my dates are all right. The French Revolution occurred after the American Revolution. Okay. Well, this is a very extravagant lady who had thousands of pairs of shoes and was at the Versailles, Paris, spending money in a very extravagant manner. And when the population was crying that they wanted bread, he said, "Oh, let them go eat cakes." So this woman is the symbol of extravagance. She's a spendthrift, and every time, most of the people, one of my friends provokes his wife, who has so many clothes, that, darling, you are a cross between Marie Antoinette and Imelda Marcos. And we always laugh about it. So she is such an extravagant woman, and that's what Chantal is. She spends the money. The money from the oil is banked in Swiss bank accounts. She goes shopping in Switzerland. She's always all over there dancing, and has her friend Natalie Mudiki. Their husbands are on their sick beds, on life support with catheters that are leaking, and they are out enjoying the money. And she signs as Madame la Présidente, so nobody dares talk to her. Nobody can. There's no justice system in Cameroon that can reach her. They can lock 10,000 ministers. They take the money and go and give Chantal Biya. So there is no trial where anybody is going to call Chantal Biya to come and testify. That will never happen in Cameroon. But the time is coming. This October election is going to be a seismic change in Cameroon, because the population is going to rise.
So why is the military acquiescing with whatever is going on?
Because the military in Cameroon is a business group.
So the generals, they don't have patriotism.
They know they are there to make their money. The people who control the system are the French, they have handed over to the Israelis, who have the technology to listen to your phone conversations, to listen to the walkie-talkies, so they know exactly what is being discussed, so they can preempt a coup. And it's the French who can conduct a coup, because a coup is basically cutting communication between the generals and then bringing up some generals who can mount an attack. And when they do that, that's it. Look at what they did with Olingingema in Gabon. You saw French gendarmes were among the military who were conducting the coup. So that is very important. So the French, you have to watch what is happening in Cameroon right now. They will never accept a populist leader like Maurice Kamto, because that will be the fulfilling of Colonel Lamberton's strategy that le Bamileke, c'est le caillou gênant dans la chaussure de la colonisation française au Cameroon. And they will never want them to take over for a simple reason. The Bamilikis are very enterprising. When they take over, the French will not be able to sell their products because the Bamilikis can dismantle these products and reverse engineer them and start producing their own products. So there will be no market for French products in Cameroon.
So which means what has been happening now in the Sahel, Cameroon will just join the race?
Well, education is a companion that no despotism can enslave. Cameroonians are getting more and more enlightened. They're living in France, they're living in Germany, they're living in China, they're living in the United States. They are seeing the power of an informed public, and they cannot deceive them forever. Change is coming. Change is inevitable. And the French must look at, let me just give you an example. The prosecutor in Norway has locked up Cho Ayaba for nearly 1 year. Why can't he bring him to trial?
He doesn't have any facts.
He has no facts. The only question they asked Cho Ayaba was, why did you give an order for banning Brazzaville's products? Isn't that a scandal for a Western country which claims to be a democratic country? Because Castel is paying. Castel is the multinational that controls the Brazil to Cameroon, and they are paying. And what they are trying to do is what the French did to Laurent Gbagbo. Hold him at the Hague for 8 years, hold Cho Ayaba there, and get things to be calm. But Cho Ayaba is just one of the no-nonsense generation of Southern Cameroonians. This movement is continuing, whether they are leaders or not.
Never again generation.
Yes, so this is where we are going.
Then when you look at the power structure, it looks like I saw a ship sinking and people jumping out in the sea.
That is
that's the metaphor.
That's the metaphor of the sinking Titanic.
Okay.
But when the sinking Titanic was sinking, some people were still buying first-class tickets. So this is the problem with Cameroon. Now, when a regime has lasted for 42 years, just like the Gaddafi regime had lasted, just like Museveni's regime had lasted. By the way, Paul Kagame may be dead. They are not announcing it, but nobody has seen him for 2 weeks. So let's watch that. That's another thing.
Yeah, then with this regime, we hear also that there's a conflict among the Beti folks.
Of course.
In that clan.
Of course.
So even La Garde Republicaine, then the people in the army, I hear the two are not even cohesive.
The army.
So Biya's presence may just be what is keeping them together.
Yes, it is this strong man, this image of the strong man, le père de la nation, le bouclier de l'unité nationale, that nonsense, that is what keeps Cameroon alive. But when that will shatter, like it shattered in Zimbabwe, as it's going to shatter in Uganda, as it's shattering in Rwanda, that is how it's going to happen in Cameroon. It shattered in Libya. Whatever you say about the NATO powers and the rest, Gaddafi invited this on him because of the 500 million that he went and gave to Sarkozy, and Sarkozy's accusation that he slept with his wife. So these are the things that are happening. Paul Biya's regime is ending, and the French cannot afford to allow a populist movement which will go in the branch of what is happening in the Sahel.
So when you look at the Cameroon army, who do you think may be the Cameroon Brice Olinkin Gema?
There doesn't seem to be any real clear person. Now, the French are very good at taking an obscure person who is not known and mounting him up. Remember how Ahidjo came to power? Ahidjo, nobody knows his father in Cameroon. Ahidjo doesn't really have a proper education. They took him and removed André Marin Bida, who was a nationalist. And Prince, in Cameroon, before the independence in the early 60s, there were restaurants where they say in French, interdit au noir et au chien. Can you believe that?
Same thing that was happening in the United States.
Yeah, so
during the Jim Crow days.
Good. These are the kinds of situations where we are in, but the Western, the Anglo-American system is collapsing, and we are having a multipolar world, and things are going to change. Who knows whether the Wagner group is going to come in to conduct the coup or to counter the coup? The French are very apprehensive of the influence of the Russians in Africa now, and the Russians are really staking their claim, because the popular view is that, well, Russia has never occupied our country. Russia helped us during the liberation movement, so hey, we don't mind. And that is a counterpoise to French imperialism. So this is where we are. It's going to be very dicey, but that's why we, the two witches, we are going to be watching all politicians. Akere Muna, I am watching you. Dion Gute, I am watching you. Atanganji, I am watching you. And hey, I'm not scared. I am not scared.
So the way I see it, before October, how do you think that machine is being set up to defraud?
Okay. Well, the fraud is going to occur. There's no doubt about that. Because I was speaking to one of my colleagues in Cameroon as we're preparing for this program. Whatever the electoral law says, the courts say that, the law say that only the procès verbal, the report of the election submitted by Elecam, is valid.
Okay.
And the territorial administration is there to prevent anybody from announcing the elections before the official announcement of elections. Prince, you know that it cannot happen here in the United States.
Of course.
CNN, Fox, they can go and announce. But this is how repressive.
Atanganji is doing a bad job suppressing his own people.
Well, that's what they do. They always take an overseer of the white man.
What are they thinking about Akere Biya? Qu'est-ce qu'ils vont faire tous ces bâtards?
Okay, my analysis is that it is difficult to have another stable regime after Biya departs. There is going to be turbulence. There's going to be transitional chaos before anything settles. So that is the chaos that the French are trying to forestall, and they're testing many strategies. I'm not even sure they are yet settled on the real person who should take over. They're watching, writing reports, watching. So that's why you see when they receive Chiruma, now we're hearing that Bilibua Magari and all the northern group is going to resign. So we have to be watching, because they changed their strategy too. It's like a moving target. As one general says that even the best war plans become obsolete when they get to the battlefield.
Yes.
So they don't have a strategy that they must stick to. They are going to change due to the expediency, the contingency, the changing conditions on the ground. And they know that the Anglophones are not going to give up. We are not giving up.
So when you look at what is happening in the Sahel, do you think Russia is paying attention to what is happening in Cameroon?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so
Russia, Putin is out to disrupt American hegemony in Africa. He is aware that the French and the Americans have been having a stranglehold on the resources in Africa, and that is the way to extend their clout. Remember, during the Second World War, Hitler had intentions of diverting to Africa to control Africa. So Africa, North Africa is a very strategic area. The Sahel is a very strategic area. Who controls Africa will control a lot of the resources. By now, the oil that comes to the United States from West Africa rivals that which comes from the Gulf.
Wow.
So this is very important.
And we hear it's of better quality too.
Yeah, West Africa is a strategic national security area for the United States. So the United States cannot allow the Russians to take over that area. So they are supporting the French in whatever the French want to do. And remember, Prince, that it is the French who dragged the Americans to Vietnam, to the Waterloo in Vietnam. So we should be watching this very carefully. But of course, my view is as good as yours. So we should just be watching. And fortunately now, everybody's a journalist. Wherever you find yourself in Côte d'Azur, you see Frank Biya passing, you take a picture, you send it to us. I mean, our girls, they like you people very much. When you date them, give us the information.
That's good. So basically, that's what is happening. So you see what is happening in Cameroon. The people, a lot of unemployment.
Yes.
And so Cameroon is really ripe for a coup d'etat. And we know that the big surprise is it may even happen a day before that October election.
Well, the French will stage it. Because the way to preempt events is to pop a balloon before it explodes.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to pop. They know that Cameroon is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. So they want to diffuse the crisis before it really explodes. So that is what they're doing, because they don't want to lose Cameroon. They have secured Gabon, they have lost the Central African Republic, and they have lost Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. So they are very keen, because they say very clearly, l'avenir de la France en Afrique. Sans l'Afrique, la France n'a pas d'avenir. So they say it very clearly. So the strategic interest of the French, the survival of the living standards in France, the survival of the streets. One of my friends came from Paris, and I was taking her around Washington, D.C. I was like, Larry, we have more lights in Paris than you people. I said, yeah, because you guys are stealing the uranium from Niger.
Yeah, but it looks like Orano is in trouble already. So I don't think.
And the French, who have been, and Prince, when in my latest book, The Single African Currency, I reveal how the French have been hoarding gold, how they took the gold right from Africa, they took the gold right from Kinshasa to put in the Banque de France. And so we're going to be developing all these topics to see how the independence was a subterfuge. It never really worked. And that's what we're going to be talking about.
From this show also, if you are an African or a Pan-Africanist, we invite you to share information with us, because we really want to create this movement so that more people can reach us and we'll spread the word, because a revolution is only as good as the people who are informed.
Yes, democracy is sustained by an informed public. Information is power. The more informed we are, the better we are at circumventing the wiles of the imperialist nations who want to continue to dominate and exploit Africa. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so when you look at Emmanuel Macron, what's he doing?
Macron has no clout.
Okay.
Just he a lame president who is going to beat him up
all
the time. Power, the strength exuded. And African leaders are not afraid of that. Okay. Prince, we're going to make a full show on Donald Trump.
Okay.
I came with the Common Sense, the Rights of Man, and Thomas Paine.
Okay.
Thomas Paine.
These are terms that try men souls. So.
Good. We need to. Donald Trump is a big topic. Well, Sweat, you can come and ask me. We have to be doing this.
Okay, so let's go across, eat something. So,
hey, Munye, this is what we should be doing. Let them write. Prince, we'll write books from this. We'll write a book from this show. We just two people just that's how we'll be making money. You sit, you go open your mailbox, you see Amazon will send you something. All my shirts were dirty. I just said I should wear this down.
Okay.
Yeah. The quality is not very good. People are complaining about it. But Akere Muna, say they have
trying to play the